We are broadcasting from Cooperstown, New York, site of the National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum. Thank you very much for joining us today as we continue our series of virtual curator spotlights, looking at starting nines of artifacts throughout the museum. Today, our focus will be on the 5 teams in the National League's Western Division. As we get started here, just want to introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Bruce Markison, and I work in the education department here at the Baseball Hall of Fame. Been doing that since 2013, 8 years ago. Also want to thank the Ford Motor Company for their generous sponsorship of this and all of our other virtual programs. We're able to bring these to you free of charge, in large part because of the generosity of the Ford Motor Company. Also, we appreciate the generosity of our curatorial department here at the Hall of Fame. Our expert today is Gabrielle Augustine, curator here at the Baseball Hall of Fame. Gabrielle will join us to talk about the 10 artifacts, 2 for each of the 5 teams in the National League West. It's been a few weeks, Gabrielle, since we talked to you. How have you been?
Doing okay, doing okay. It's so much nicer now that we have the sun shining and hints of spring are coming through. So it really makes a difference that it's baseball season.
Yeah, I think in the last 2 weeks, we've had more sunny days than maybe we had the entire winter. So
I know.
It's always a good sign. Spring has officially arrived. And although spring generally in reality arrives much later in central New York, we've had some nice weather these last few days. It's been in the 50s, even the 60s, and we hope that continues for the foreseeable future. So Gabrielle has selected 10 of the artifacts among the starting nines. For those of you not familiar with this initiative, we began this last year. And it was actually when we reopened. We had been shut down for 103 days. And we then reopened in late June. And one of the things that we did after the reopening, we featured the starting 9 of artifacts, where you can actually go through the museum and you can find 9 selected artifacts for your favorite team, whether it's, the Atlanta Braves or the Tampa Bay Rays and anybody in between. You can actually find in different exhibits, different parts of the Hall of Fame, 9 of the artifacts, not necessarily the best artifacts, but they're really 9 of the more intriguing artifacts, and they often do involve Hall of Fame players. So what we've been doing with these programs is, instead of doing 9 for each of the teams, that would take several hours. So we picked 2, and Gabrielle has selected 2 for each of the 5 teams in the National League West. So Gabrielle, we begin with the Arizona Diamondbacks and this signed baseball. And as I was telling you off air a few moments ago, I looked at this autograph and I said, well, this looks like Timmy Brown to me. And it is not. It is Randy Johnson. That is his autograph. The date is May 8th, 2001. If you would, Gabrielle, tell us the significance of this baseball.
Sure, absolutely. And thanks again for having me, Bruce. It's always fun to do these. But yeah, this is not Timmy Brown's signature. This is Randy Johnson's signature. And this baseball comes from May 8th, 2001, where he struck out 20 players in a 9-inning game. Now, only a handful of pitchers have ever accomplished this feat. So this is not an easy task. And this baseball is from this game. In the 9 innings that Johnson pitched, he threw 124 pitches. Only gave up 3 hits, no walks, and 1 run. Unfortunately, though, so he didn't actually earn the win for this game because this game went into extra innings. When he left the game at the end of the 9th inning, the score was tied 1-1. And so his teammates had to battle another 2 innings before they actually got the win 4-3. So the actual winning pitcher of the game was his teammate, Troy Brohan. But overall, it doesn't matter whether it went 9 innings or 11 innings. To strike out 20 guys in that amount of time is a remarkable feat. And like I said, only a handful of pitchers have ever done it.
Took him 124 pitches,
yep.
Which actually sounds a little bit low given that you have 20 strikeouts during the course of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And, if this had been a game 30 years ago, maybe he would have been allowed to pitch in extra innings. Well, I guess it's possible that he was pinch hit for as well. I don't know the circumstance of that.
I think.
But 124 is about the limit for today's pitcher.
Yep. Yeah. That's sometimes even pushing it for these days. What we're seeing, almost 20 years later for pitching. But yeah, Johnson went on to continue to have a fantastic season. He was 37 years old at the time, and but went 21-6 and won his third straight Cy Young Award, and also then helped lead the Diamondbacks to a World Championship later that season.
Gabrielle, you've been working at the Hall for a few years. I had left for a while. I came back in 2013. I've actually had a chance to meet Randy Johnson. He has worked at our Ozzie Smith Play Ball event during Hall of Fame weekend. Have you had a chance to run into him at all?
I've walked by him, okay. And I am tall, and but I feel very short when I walk by Randy Johnson. Yeah. I've not actually yet had the opportunity to actually be properly introduced, though. So one of these Hall of Fame induction weekends, hopefully.
Now, you're about 5'10"?
Yes.
Okay. I'm 6'4", and I feel tiny next to Johnson, who's of course 6'10", and is quite a sight whenever you see him, because it's very rare that you see someone who's 7 feet tall running around Cooperstown.
Yep.
But a remarkable player, a guy that really struggled early in his career. I remember when he was with the Expos, he had a lot of trouble with his mechanics. He had a lot of trouble throwing strikes. Kind of a late bloomer, but then really made up for it. His great years with Seattle and Arizona. Not as good with the Yankees, but certainly a tremendous second half of his career. So good that he made the Hall of Fame. And you think about players that we humans would not want to face in an exhibition. We all dream of playing in a major league game,
right?
But probably one of the guys that we would not dream about facing is Randy Johnson.
No.
In his prime, especially if you're a left-hand hitter. Not that much better if you're a right-hand hitter.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I mean, his stride, he's basically halfway to the plate by the time he releases the ball. And just the intimidation factor of putting, a guy who's 6'10" on top of a mound on top of that. Like, no, thank you.
When we talk about artifacts like this, we try to get a baseball from every no-hitter and every perfect game. And I don't think we have every one, but we have close, right? We have almost 100% a representation.
Yeah, we're really close. I don't know what the percentage is, but yeah, I think there's a few that we're missing. And yeah, but we always try to collect from really major feats, whether it's a no-hitter, whether it's a perfect game, whether it's 20 strikeouts. We do definitely try to get something from that game. We also usually ask the pitcher for something as well. Yeah. And sometimes that will go hand in hand with the ball that comes in, which is always great.
One final point, we always try to figure out, or I try to guess, where these artifacts are in the museum. Given that it's a 20 strikeout performance, which is pretty remarkable, single game performance, I would have to say it's one for the books, third floor.
You're correct. Nicely done. It's a good start.
Oh, I always start well and then I fade as we get deeper into the program. So that's where you can find the Randy Johnson 20 strikeout game ball up on the third floor in a very colorful one for the books exhibit. So that's one half of our Arizona Diamondback representation. The other half, and I know this one is difficult for both you and me because we're both diehard Yankee fans.
It is.
And this brings up a difficult memory, but it is a great moment in the history of baseball. It's from the 2001 World Series. This is the bat that Luis Gonzalez used to drive in the series-ending run. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so as we all, us Yankee fans are definitely engraved in our minds. This series had some really great moments. This is where the 2001 World Series is where Derek Jeter earned his nickname, Mr. November, when he hit that game-winning home run, and I think it was a Game 4 to keep the Yankees alive. But alas, it was not to be. The Diamondbacks fought back hard, and so Luis Gonzalez comes to bat. Bases were loaded. It was a tie game, bottom of the ninth, and he hits a single to center field and drives in the game-winning run, and that's it. And heartbreaking, obviously, for us Yankee fans. But I mean, for Luis Gonzalez, you know, in a later interview, he said it was a childhood dream come true. Because, you know, as a kid, certainly I know I had daydreams about it. You dream of coming to the plate in those, you know, real high pressure situations where it's winner take all, and it came true for him, which is really cool. So as much as they beat the Yankees, it was still well deserved.
Gabrielle, we're so used to seeing baseball bats with the Louisville Slugger emblem on them. This one has the big letter R.
Yep.
Makes me think of Rawlings. We don't really think of Rawlings. Is it Rawlings or is it another company?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, so it is a Rawlings bat. Interesting. And it's what they called a big stick model. So we don't necessarily see a lot of the Rawlings bats, but this was obviously one that was used by Luis Gonzalez. Now there's a little bit of an emblem to the left of where it says big stick. What exactly is that?
Oh, the what looks like a shiny hologram sticker.
Okay.
That's exactly what it is. That is the so one of the things that MLB has started to do, and they've developed this program even more in the last decade or so, is they authenticate artifacts or equipment before they become artifacts at the museum. And they so it's their way of tracking that, yes, this equipment was used in the way it was claimed to be used. So, you know, that sticker has a number on it that you can look up in a database, and that, yes, it will say what exactly this bat was used for. These days, almost everything gets hologram because, I mean, for MLB, a lot of it is for teams to resell, but it is useful for us on the research end to ensure when we get an artifact in that we can double check that hologram program and make sure all the everything is matching up. Now, sometimes the hologram firm is not perfect because the people who are inputting the data is like in mid-game, but it's still a starting point for our research.
Now, I know that you and the other curators, you'll do a lot of research on older artifacts before these holograms.
Yes.
If the hologram is there like it is here, do you still go ahead and double check?
Oh, absolutely.
You do?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. And even with modern artifacts that we get in that have the hologram sticker on it, we still do our due diligence and photo match it to the best of our ability. You know, natural bats like this bat are great for photo matching because the wood grain's so unique. So, you know, especially in the age of high resolution cameras, we can really zoom in and get a good glimpse of what the wood grain's doing. And since it's such a unique pattern, we'll be able to, it's easier to match than say a solid black bat, which then reflects all the surfaces and you can barely see what's going on it.
Yeah. The other thing noticeable about this bat, there's quite a bit of pine tar, especially beyond that band toward the middle of the bat. If I were really being a biased Yankee fan, I would say, hey, this might be an illegal bat, maybe, but it's not. It does not have 18 inches of pine tar.
It does not.
But it has quite a bit, and we always leave that on. We maintain that as part of the game use quality, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We do not, well, it's really hard to remove pine tar anyway, even if you wanted to. But yeah, no, we leave it on. We try not to let it, eventually over time the tar will harden, which is great. But while it's still sticky, especially when it comes fresh in from a game, we try to make sure that, you know, no fibers come in contact to it because everything will just stick to it. But we've had bats that come in that they're just almost dripping in pine tar.
Really?
That you'll actually get when they're on display. You can look in the case and, you know, below the bat is a drip of pine tar, which is kind of gross, but there's really nothing we can do about it. It's just the pine tar doing its thing.
Right. All right. In terms of where this is in the museum, again, this seems fairly obvious that this would be up in Autumn Glory, the World Series exhibit on the 3rd floor. It's got to be, yeah?
Yep, you're correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So you'll find the Luis Gonzalez bat complete with the pine tar and the hologram, and that Rawlings R. It's up on the 3rd floor in the Autumn Glory exhibit. It's kind of a 2-tiered exhibit for those who have not been here before. Part of the exhibit is the past history of the World Series. And then the featured part of the exhibit each year is really a focus on the most recent World Series to take place with an emphasis on the team that won. And that's a case that obviously will change every year. There's also a World Series video that we update each year. Again, that's Autumn Glory up on the 3rd floor. So that's the Arizona Diamondbacks. Let's now talk about another team from the NL West, not far as west as, well, actually, no, it's about the same, isn't it? Colorado Rockies, Jamie Moyer. And here we see his rather distinctive glove. His name is actually imprinted right on the glove, a black Wilson glove. Mm-hmm. And he's not a guy that we necessarily think of as a Colorado Rocky, because he had some great years with some other teams like the Phillies and the Mariners. But he did something interesting for the Rockies back in 2012. Tell us about that, if you will, Gabrielle.
Sure, absolutely. Well, April 17th, so actually coming up on the anniversary of that in about a month, a little less than a month, 2012, Jamie Moyer became the oldest pitcher to win a major league game. Now, and when I say oldest, I mean at 49 years and 151 days old, which is, by any baseball player measurement, is up there in years. Sounds terrible, but well past their prime, as it were. So Moyer pitched this game. He had come off his season, so he actually missed the entire 2011 season due to getting Tommy John surgery. But he came back and pitched in a few more games for the Rockies. And he actually, for his first two games of the 2012 season, he got the losses for, but on April 17th, he finally got the win, making him the oldest pitcher, setting that record, surpassing Jack Quinn of the Dodgers in 1932, who was 49 years and 70 days old. Mm-hmm. But Moyer continued to actually set a record. He then did win one more game in 2012, almost a month later on May 16th. And but then shortly thereafter, he retired for good. But he did, in the meantime, he set a record. I'm not sure this kind of record is actually ever going to be broken. But yeah, this is the glove that he wore for that game.
Amazing that at 48 years of age, 1 year earlier, he had the Tommy John surgery.
Yep.
A lot of pitchers at that age would have said, to heck with it, it's time for me to retire. But he went ahead and did it because he wanted to keep pitching, and he was able to come back and pitch part of that season before ultimately retiring in 2012. And I guess retired just short of his 50th birthday. Just to put things in perspective, the oldest player to ever appear in a major league game was back in 1965. Hall of Famer Satchel Paige started a game for the Kansas City A's, and he was 59. He was 10 years older than Moyer. And he actually pitched 3 shutout innings against the Red Sox, but he didn't go the required 5. So he didn't get the win. He didn't do exactly what Jamie Moyer did. But just remarkable that at nearly 50 years of age, Jamie Moyer was able to still take the mound. And another guy that I had the benefit of meeting a few years back, he participated in a Hall of Fame Classic weekend, maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago. And the day before the Classic, he was at Doubleday Field for the clinic that they do with the young kids. And one of the things I remember, Gabrielle, about him that day is he actually stayed late when some of the kids from the local school, Cooperstown Central School, they came over. I think they might have had a game or a practice earlier in the day. So they got to the ballpark late, kind of when the clinic was ending. And Moyer actually stayed late with them to give them a little pep talk and some pitching advice.
Oh, that's
and I thought that was great.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it tells you a little something about Jamie Moyer.
Yeah, I got to meet him as well. I met him my first year working for the Hall. He came for Ken Griffey Jr.'s induction, and I helped on a tour, behind the scenes tour with him. And yeah, he brought his family. Absolutely great, really great guy. Definitely, clearly loves the game. So, yeah.
I bet he had a lot of questions on that tour, right?
What was that?
I bet he had a lot of questions on the tour. He seems like a thoughtful guy.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, he did. I was not leading the tour at the time because I was literally a week into the job. So I was just helping being a caboose and corralling everyone. So I was not answering any of the questions at that point.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the glove itself, Gabrielle. The thing that pops out at you is his name stitched into the glove. Is that a common thing we see with players today?
Definitely. Absolutely. Yeah. Pitchers love actually almost any player loves their personalization. So you could probably, if you look at any of the gloves, recent gloves that we've received, or if you look at pictures of players, they have their names or something somewhere, a personalization on their glove somewhere. So for a lot of players, it's their name or it's initials, maybe their number. But other players might have quotes, Bible sayings, things like that. And yeah, a glove. I think you and I talked about this a little bit last time. Is that gloves are a really personal part of the player, and so it's very much an extension of themselves. So I think they go the extra mile to make sure that the glove works for them and that it's super personal to them.
The other thing that jumps out is the color. Probably the majority of gloves are a brown, some shade of brown. This is the very stark black and seems to be in very good condition too.
Yeah, absolutely. Great condition. I would hazard a guess that this was he just used this for the 2012 season. And as we know, he didn't play the whole entire season. So that would be my guess. I don't have the actual documentation on that in front of me.
Yeah.
But you know who else used a stark black glove? Randy Johnson.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. Excellent. All right. Final point on this one. I need to guess where this one is. Now I'm tempted to say one for the books, but I'm also tempted maybe whole new ball game since it's post 2000. I'm going to go one for the books on this one.
Ooh, neither guess was going to be correct though. It's actually in Your Team Today, also known as the locker room.
Okay, well, it is relatively recent. It's only 9 years ago.
Yep.
And that's what we tend to showcase. Your Team Today, the 30 lockers for each of the teams. And those artifacts do tend to rotate in and out. Obviously, this one has been up, since last year and will remain up as long as, for at least as long as we continue with our starting 9.
Yep.
So it's up on the 3rd floor in Your Team Today. And for those who haven't been to the Hall of Fame, in a couple of years, that's a different location. This exhibit, the lockers, used to be on the 2nd floor outside the theater, but now it's a bigger space up on the 3rd floor, correct?
Yep, absolutely. Yep, we did a whole new redesign with the look of the lockers. The lockers themselves are physically still the same, but in terms of it's just two lines of lockers, which is really clean and pretty and a lot of space for people to stand back and take pictures of their favorite locker, or you can get up real close and see your favorite artifacts.
Very nice. So that's up on the 3rd floor. So that's one of our 2 Colorado Rockies artifacts. This one has to do with the offensive side of the game. Do not be fooled by the name on the bat. There's a story behind that, but the bat actually was used by Todd Helton back in 2013. So another relatively recent artifact. This was his last game at Coors Field in Denver, and he did something pretty notable with this bat.
Yeah. So Todd Helton borrowed teammate Michael Kadyr's bat and hit his final career home run in his final home game at Coors Field. The Rockies went on to have 3 more away games at the Dodgers, I believe. But yeah, so this is on September 25th, 2013, Todd Helton smashed this home run in the 2nd inning of the game. And basically wrapping up his entire 17-year career. It's a really nice way as a send-off in a way, after being with the Rockies his entire major league career. It was like I said, it was in the 2nd inning. The rest of the game was less notable as Boston beat the Rockies 15-5. But in terms of being a core Rockies player for 17 years, Todd Helton then, after 3 games later, retired with setting franchise records of over 1,400 runs, 369 home runs, and over 1,400 RBI. So I think those, if I remember correctly, from when I last checked, all those records still stand. It'll take a while for anyone to get to those. But yeah, so like I said, he borrowed his teammate Michael Kadyr's bat. Actually, Kadir was batting right before Helton in the lineup in this game. So I'm not sure. I'd be curious if Kadir was using just a different type of bat, and then Helton either took one of his others or just liked the feel of this one, or that Kadir used it to hit his home run. I'm not sure, but it's really interesting to see when teammates borrow each other's bats. You usually see that when a pitcher has to go to bat, they might not have their own bat,
right? But
less so for position players. So
yeah, players today, position players, are so personal about their bats. Yeah. You don't see these exchanges. Like, this used to be a fairly common thing. You think of two of the most famous home runs from the 1970s. Carlton Fisk in Game 6 of the 75 series famously used Rick Burleson's bat. And then 3 years later, and this was a great moment for us Yankee fans, Bucky Dent borrowing Mickey Rivers' bat. It's that 3-run home run in Game 163. Gives the Yankees a 3-2 lead, and they end up winning the American League East over the rival Red Sox. So that kind of thing happened fairly regularly, but in today's game, the exchange of one bat to another, you don't see it as much. So that's kind of cool. This happened.
It is really cool. Yeah. And it's a nice little curveball for us to talk about.
Now, in terms of the model of the bat, this is something I'm not familiar with at all. A B45 says premium yellow birch. I have no idea what company this is.
It is B45. That is the bat. That's
company. What they're called.
Yep, B45. They specialize in yellow birch bats. So that's pretty interesting. And it is always unusual when we get a unique bat to talk about, bat company to talk about, because when you think of baseball bats, you think of Louisville Slugger. That's the first one that comes to mind. But if I remember correctly, there's over 100 different companies that are licensed by MLB that can provide baseball bats for major leaguers. There's this whole process for a bat company to get to be allowed to provide bats for major leaguers. And so, yeah, they have to follow standards, things like that. And yeah, there's over 100 that do so, but you tend to hear more about Louisville Slugger. Victus is an up and coming name. Marucci is another big one. But it's cool that we have a B45 in our collection.
Interesting. Now, down toward the handle, there's a white substance that can't be pine tar. Do we know what that is?
I don't actually know what that is off the top of my head. It might have been pine tar that got adhered with other stuff. From the field. I'm not really sure. That's I've noticed it before, but never really thought too much more about it until you mentioned that, Bruce.
Yeah. It almost looks like chalk dust that somehow is
a
made
little
of
bit,
clay.
right?
Yeah, I don't think it's that, but it's just what it has an appearance of.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of where this bat would be, if I follow the logic with a Jamie Moyer glove, which is in your team today, and that was from 2012, maybe I use that same logic for this one, but then again, maybe you want to spread these artifacts out to different locations. So I'm thinking could be whole new ball game. I'm going to go whole new ball game again.
You should have stuck with your gut. It's your team today.
I overthought it.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're all the rest of the artifacts are spread throughout the museum, and the Rockies must-see 9. Just the 2 that I happened to pick today are from the locker.
Okay, well, fair enough. Your team today up on the 3rd floor. Colorado Rockies, one of the newer franchises in baseball history. Then you think about an older traditional franchise, of course, for many years in Brooklyn and now in Los Angeles, the Dodgers. And here's one that's maybe a personal favorite among all the ones that you've selected for today. I love awards. And this is a Vintage Cy Young Award. It's from way back, the year I was born, 1965, and it was given to a man named Sandy Kofax. Take it from there.
All right. Yeah, this is also one of the reasons I chose this, A, for the Dodgers starting 9, but also for talking about today is because who doesn't love bright, shiny objects? I love baseball awards are so fascinating, and it's always really cool when we have them in our collection. You know, we have a pretty good collection of awards, but because they're so personal, you know, the player gets them, it's awarded once, and it's not like, you know, they from an event that they have their jersey, cap, and glove, and they give us one of those things. No, this is a culmination of something. And so so this 65 Cy Young Award is for Sandy Kofax's work in the 65 season, where he struck out 382 players in a year, which actually has been since broken by Nolan Ryan with 383 players in a season. He also, that same season, also led the big leagues with 27 complete games and had a 2.04 ERA. So talk about just flat out amazing season. The 27 complete games is really unheard of today. No wonder that a few years later he actually had to retire because of arthritis in his arm, because using it a lot. But this was not his first Cy Young Award. This was his second, and he earned a Cy Young and an MVP in 1963. And had a bit of an off season in 64, then came back and got the Cy Young for 65, and then again for his last season in 66, where he also was led the leagues the following season with, again, 27 complete games. He was his career. He retired after the 66 season, like I said, because of arthritis in his arm. He also almost didn't make it through the 66 season, but decided to soldier on. So after only 12 years in the big leagues, he retired. And then at the age of 36 in 1972, he became the youngest player to be inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So.
Let's talk a little bit about the materials used in this award. First of all, is it sort of one-dimensional, like a plaque? Is that kind of what it's like?
It is pretty one-dimensional. The really the most 3D part is the hand holding the ball. That comes off a little bit, but nothing too crazy.
So the part with the hand, is that silver and then the rest is wood?
All the bright, shiny part of it is a silver alloy, and then the black behind it is a black wood plaque. Yes.
Okay. It says presented to Sandy Kofax, and then under there, this is kind of interesting, and I don't know if they do this as a standard thing on the award. I imagine the award's appearance has changed over time, but it actually says most valuable pitcher. I never knew that they put that on the Cy Young Award.
They do. I can't remember if they do that still today, but I feel like when I was doing Roy Halladay's inductee case a couple of years ago, and his widow brought his Cy Young Awards, I'm pretty sure it said most valuable pitcher on those as well.
Really?
So.
About how big are these awards?
Actually, I have the measurements for you. This particular award measures 16.5 inches tall, by 13.25 inches wide.
So about 1.5 feet by just over a foot.
Yep.
Yeah. It's just beautiful. I mean, it's you think about the connection to Kofax and the fact that he won the 3 awards. He was phenomenal during that 1965 season, as he was for much of the 1960s. But the award itself is really a beautiful piece and a vintage piece as well. In terms of where it is here in the Hall of Fame, it's got to be in One for the Books, no?
Oh yeah, you're correct.
Okay.
Back up 3-2.
I'm trying to think where this is in One for the Books, because I have not noticed this previously.
It's over towards the pitchers section. Where you see the Nolan Ryan set of caps.
Yes.
7 caps. It's the cases to the right of that. There's a couple of cases that are 90-degree angles to that case. So kind of next to where we have the top 10 tower and things.
All right, very nice. So that's up 3rd floor in our One for the Books exhibit. Longtime visitors to the Hall of Fame remember the predecessor to that room, who was just called the Records Room. And it was okay back then, but one for the books is so much more colorful and interesting, and it tells really a lot more stories. And if you've never seen the one for the books exhibit, which is only, I'm guessing, about 10, 12 years old, it's definitely one that you need to check out here at the Hall of Fame. So that's an old-time Dodger represented with this particular artifact. Mm-hmm. And then we go to one of the current Dodgers, and this, of course, is very timely. This belonging to the Dodgers' current star shortstop, Corey Seeger. Mm-hmm. During the 2020 World Series, he used this bat. This bat specifically was from Game 6, but he was tremendous throughout the series. I mean, he was one of the big reasons why the Dodgers won the whole thing.
Yeah. So this bat comes from Game 6 of the 2020 World Series, like you said. But during the series, he scored 7 runs. He drove in 5, and he batted .400, which led to him being named the unanimous MVP of the series. I mean, he also having a great 2020 World Series and postseason. It came off of him having a great 2020 regular season, even though 2020 was a short and weird season that it was. I mean, he batted .307 during the regular season, and then batted .328 in the overall postseason, with 20 RBI throughout the 18 postseason games. He was also, on top of earning MVP for the World Series, he had just come off of winning an MVP for the National League Championship Series. So he acquired quite a bit of bling for his postseason efforts.
Now, normally with World Series artifacts, we have a representative there at the Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. And after the series ends, they will kind of tend to gather up, collect many of the artifacts, take them back with them. Was that done this year, or was the process different?
We did. I believe both our president and VP of Communications were there. It was obviously a bit different in terms of asking for artifacts and collecting artifacts. There was a bit more of a agreement that things will be sent afterwards. And then when both Tim and John came back, they'd had to do their quarantining because of the travel with the pandemic. But yes, this is one of the items that they asked for, since it was from the deciding game of the series.
Tim Mead, our president, and John Shestakofsky, one of our vice presidents at the Hall of Fame, to participate, if you will, in the acquisition of artifacts like this. Now, here's another interesting bat. This is not your standard Louisville Slugger or even Adirondack Bat Company, if we go back a few years. This is a Trinity Bat. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's another one of those odd companies that not necessarily a whole lot of players are using, but for them as a bat company to be represented, that a big name player like Corey Seeger uses and then does something really cool and awesome, like help win a 2020 World Series, that's gonna be great for their business. And I would not be surprised if more players then do try and get Trinity Bats or sign in, because players are superstitious. That no matter what the stats say, or you can use all the sabermetrics you want, there's still going to be I think a layer of superstition. And so when a player sees someone else doing really great with that certain type of thing, they're going to try it themselves. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if that's what happens. I'd be curious to look at and see who's using what kind of bat this season after Corey Seeger used the Trinity Bat last season.
Yeah. Very distinctive looking. For many years, we were used to players having white ash bats. Mm-hmm. And this is actually, I guess, made from birch.
Yep. There's a different, there's different arguments for using ash versus birch. I know ash bats are probably becoming a little less common, partially players' preference, I think, but also I know ash has become a little bit more of a shortage. There's been some issues on the growing of the trees end of things, where there's actually this ash boring beetle that takes out a lot of trees. And so that becomes more problematic in terms of the supply and demand of that kind of wood.
Very interesting. Corey Seeger's bat, again, it's got to be Autumn Glory.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. This is in specifically the Dodgers 2020 World Series case.
Yeah.
And we'll stay there until we have a 2021 World Series winner.
Corey Seeger will be a very interesting player to watch this year. He's obviously a great shortstop. He's one of the, he and Francisco Lindor, two of the greatest at that position, and there are others as well. But he will be a free agent after the year. Possibility that this could be his final season with the Dodgers. We'll have to wait and see. And by the way, that season is going to begin in just over a week. Coming up on April 1 is when we begin the 2021 season. So Corey Seeger, Sandy Kofax represented in the starting nines for the Los Angeles Dodgers. We still have a couple of teams to look at. Let's stay in California with the San Diego Padres. And here we have two Hall of Famers represented. First up, we have the late, great Tony Gwynn. This is a batting helmet. You can see it's been signed by Tony Gwynn. This was from 22 years ago, August 6th, 1999. And it was a milestone hit. If you will, tell us about this one, Gabrielle.
Sure. This milestone is only a few dozen of players have ever reached this pinnacle. It's a batter's dream to get to 3,000 hits, and that is exactly what this helmet is from. On August 6th, 1999, while playing the Montreal Expos in Canada, Tony Gwynn hit his 3,000th hit. It was a single to right center field that helped him join the 3,000 hit club. And it's interesting, it's really, really cool, is that same day, 6 years earlier, he had collected his 2,000th hit. So if you need to do the math as how long it takes a pretty good major leaguer to collect 1,000 hits, it's 6 years. So puts it a little bit in perspective, but in terms of other facts, Gwynn actually achieved his 3,000th hit in fewer games than any other hitter who was born after 1900. If you include those born before 1900, he is third fastest after Ty Cobb and Napoleon Lajoie. Yep. So he actually then he played another 2 years where he then retired with 3,141 hits.
He was a guy that unfortunately I never had a chance to meet him or talk to him. Of course, he was so young when he died, and we all make the mistake of assuming that, oh, we'll have a chance, we'll have an opportunity. He's a young guy, he'll be in Cooperstown every year, and our paths will cross. And sadly, because of the cancer that he developed, he did lose his life at a very young age. Still hard to believe that he's gone so quickly. Great player, terrific guy, very personable. Everybody that met him always talked about what a good man he was. In terms of the helmet itself, we see the Tony Gwynn artifact. And I think it was you telling me a few weeks ago that we don't ask the Hall of Famers or any players to autograph an artifact, but if they choose to do it on their own, we'll still accept it, correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
We unless there's a specific reason for the autograph, we have some baseballs in the collection that were signed as a specific story. The story was that they were signed for an auction for something. Then there's stories behind the autographs. When there's an autograph, something signed that's just for the sake of signing, it doesn't do anything in terms of, for my job in telling that story. It doesn't make it any more valuable. It doesn't make it any different for us, except for making sure that we don't want the signature to fade while on exhibit. But yeah, we don't ask for things to be autographed because we care about the artifact being what it is when it was used for that event.
Right.
But 3,000 hits is a big moment. You can't really deny Tony Gwynn the opportunity to sign his artifacts, sign the equipment he wore for that event.
He did sign it in what looks like kind of a metallic silver, and it actually contrasts quite nicely to the dark blue on the helmet. Gabrielle, in terms of the insignia or the logo, the interlocking SD, do we know if that is that a patch or is that painted on? How do they do that?
I believe that one is a vinyl sticker, which is common, which we have to keep an eye on, make sure that it doesn't peel off. Things like that. Yeah, we, in terms of care for the artifact, it's those kinds of things we do have to keep an eye on. But it's not surprising that vinyl stickers are common for this era.
Yeah. Well, certainly in this photograph, it looks like it's embedded on there pretty nicely.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that when you handle the artifact, obviously you have the white gloves and you're not going to be touching the SD.
Yeah, and I'm not going to go pick at it just for fun.
Yeah. Very nice piece, though. Still in great shape. 22 years ago when Tony Gwynn joined the 3000th hit club, coming 6 years to the day after his 2000th hit. Where is this helmet in our exhibits here at the museum? Again, I've got to say one for the books, 3,000 hits, that would fall into that category.
You're not doing so great this time, Bruce. It's a whole new ball game.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, it fits the timeline of that.
It does. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But one for the books is a good guess. But we do, as records get broken or as there's other 3,000 hits, that is, you mentioned that, it's that exhibit's about a decade old, and yeah, but it still gets updated because records still get broken. Yeah. So yeah, every year we go through, Tom Schieber's really in charge of that, but he makes sure that, all the updates get done, any new numbers that we need to reprint, or one of the key things that we'll switch out are like, if someone new gets a no-hitter, we'll put the most recent no-hitter ball or most recent no-hitter cap and switch that out for the one that was previous. So yeah.
One of the great things about one for the book, or I'm sorry, a whole new ball game where this is all the video that's been included. This probably is an unfair question, but do you know, is the video of Gwynn's hit one of the videos in there?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't actually know that answer off the top of my head. Yeah. Guess everyone has to just come to the museum and find out for themselves.
Well, I'll do some research and I'll post it to our Facebook page. Easy enough to find out.
Okay.
Certainly would make sense that the game was likely televised, and it is a great milestone, a great moment, and it would certainly tie in with the helmet as well. 3,000th hit helmet for the great Tony Gwynn. All right, our other San Diego Padre, also a Hall of Famer, great reliever, Trevor Hoffman. And here we have some well-worn and slightly scuffed up spikes. Tell us a story about this.
Yeah, so these cleats are from a pretty big milestone. This is from his 500th save, which was on June 6th, 2007. So, a little over 13, 14 years ago now. He struck out Russell Martin of the Dodgers to secure San Diego's 5-2 win. And he was it's not only a really nice round number of a milestone, he's actually the first pitcher to reach this number of saves. So really is made a name for himself, quite literally, as a reliever. But he'd go on to set a record of 601 saves a couple years later. But that record has since been broken by none other than Mariano Rivera, who has now set a new mark of 652. So that the number keeps on climbing. But in terms of this particular game, I'm getting ahead of myself and talking about records being broken. He only, as a reliever, you have a very, very key job in the game, but you don't necessarily you're hopefully not throwing a lot of pitches. So for this particular game, he actually threw only 10 pitches in the top of the ninth when he came in. But he gave up a hit, but then he got 2 ground outs and then struck out Russell Martin to end the game. This is he was a longtime Padre. He was with the team for 16 seasons, then went on to play for the Brewers for 2 more years. What's really cool, and I know this will get into your questions about the cleats themselves, but one of the things I learned about these cleats is that actually under the tongues are the names of his 3 kids embroidered, which is really neat. Brody, Quinn, and Wyatt. Yep.
Nice. Very good. Now on that, the shoe on the left, the spike on the left, And that
The
would
right
be Hoffman's right foot.
Yes.
So that's, I guess, yeah, that's his push-off foot, maybe
Yes.
accounting for the scuffing that we see there.
Yep. As a right-handed pitcher myself, many of my cleats have seen better days, the right more than the left, because of that scuffing and the pushing off.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what that scuffing is from. There's a number of pitchers these days, and that will actually use what's called a pitcher's toe. And so there's an extra, it's usually a rubber of some kind. Sometimes it's just an attachment. Sometimes it's sort of formed on to the end, to the right, well, whatever the pitcher's push off foot is, because then it helps protect that area where you see the scuffing, and right where that seam where the leather meets the sole. It'll help make sure that that doesn't come apart and wear away as fast. So hopefully they don't have to switch shoes as much.
Yeah. How is that attached to the shoe?
The one I have on my cleats, it's glued, like a super glue. But I've seen a couple of different ones that we've gotten in that it's more of it looks like it's almost been sort of dipped in a molten rubber, for lack of a better word. That makes it a little tighter to the shoe than adding something else to it. But definitely it changes. There's definitely an extra little dimension to the shoe.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and apparently it holds up. I mean,
it does. It really does help from personal experience.
Yeah, very good. So Trevor Hoffman's cleats, and I'm going to say that they're in the same location or the same exhibit as the Tony Gwynn helmet. I'm going to say they're in Whole New Ball Game as well.
You're correct.
Okay.
You're correct.
I learned from my last mistake. All right, we've got two more artifacts to go, and here's another real favorite among the ones that you've selected. I mean, they're all good, but this one is especially interesting. This belongs to our oldest living Hall of Famer, Willie Mays. Well, they're now the San Francisco Giants, but back when he used this glove, they were the New York Giants, and this is really, I mean, all the artifacts are prized, but this is near the top of the list. Tell us about the significance.
For sure. Even if you're, don't know all your baseball history, there's no doubt that, a casual baseball fan has seen the replay of this play for the 1954, game one of the 1954 World Series, where Willie Mays is wearing this glove and running straight towards the center field wall and makes it over the shoulder catch, which is just known as that. It is the catch. People know it by that. People know exactly what you mean when you say the catch. But yeah, this is the glove that he wore for that game. He robbed Cleveland's. It was a World Series between the Giants and Cleveland. It was the top of the eighth inning. The game was tied 2-2. And there was men on first and second. And so Vic Wertz, who played for Cleveland, came up to bat and hit this bomb to center field. And Willie Mays just took off and ran after it. And in one of the all-time best, well-known best catches in baseball history, made this over the shoulder catch to get Wertz out. It's one of the things is a lot of baseball analysts after that game will say, after the season will say that probably turned the tide of the series, even though it was only game one, because it kind of took the breath out of Cleveland. The Giants went on to sweep the series. But after that kind of play, it's almost like they never stood a chance.
Yeah.
In researching this artifact and learning more about it, a quote I found from Willie Mays was that, he was like, I had a good lead on it all the way. So I just ran until I got it. Anyway, any ball that is hit that high ought to be caught. It's like, that's a pretty good quote. I mean, it's still, you had to travel quite a distance to catch it.
It is an amazing play. If it's not the greatest catch in baseball history, it's
up
at least top three at minimum.
Now,
the glove itself, when I first saw this glove, I said, this looks like from the 1930s because, it's really aged. It's very dark in spots. You can see the leather is cracking. He must have used this for years and years.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I believe so. Have not done, photo matching for how long he used it, and of course the 50s your photo quality is less good for details like this. But yeah, it's he had to have used it for years, but it's really a well-loved glove, you know, like we've talked about before. It's personal, and so, you know, if it works for you, you're going to keep using it probably till it can no longer really be used. If you're really
I think I can make out the brand name. Is it Rawlings?
It is a Rawlings. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just toward the bottom above, it looks like the word high, H-I.
I think that's an HH, and I forget what that stands for.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's part of the Rawlings branding.
You know, this one does look, you know, relatively fragile. Would this be the kind of an artifact that we might have to rotate in and out of? It's on exhibit now, but we might have to rotate it in and out just in terms of preservation.
We might. It has definitely been on exhibit for a number of years, so that I will leave up to our collections department for that determination. It's in terms of, there's not pieces flaking off, if that's what you're asking. Right now, it's still in pretty solid shape. It just, you know, leather ages over time.
Sure.
You know, you know, the oil, it dries out, you know, as the oils leave it, things like that. So it's not too bad for looking at over 60 years old. It's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, the stitching is definitely intact.
Oh yeah.
And I think a lot of what you're seeing here is the discoloration over time.
Yep. You can see, obviously, right in the palm, obviously, that's where the leather got a lot of wear right there. Absolutely.
Just a great piece from Willie Mays. It's got to be up Autumn Glory, 3rd floor.
Yes. Yeah. You're correct.
Yeah, I've seen this a few times. It's a really good one. All right, our last artifact, and this is the second one from the San Francisco Giants, a far more recent piece. This is a cap that Madison Bumgarner used during the 2014 World Series. He was a one-man pitching wrecking crew for the Giants.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's hard not to talk about the Giants of the 2010s without, you know, they won basically every other year for 4 years, 2010, 2012, and 2014. They had quite the lineup going there. And yeah, so Madison Bumgarner was part of all of those. And in 2014, almost basically took it into his own hands in some respects, you could say. He started game 1 and game 5 and won both of those. He earned the win for both of those. And then on 3 days rest, he came in at the start of the 5th inning in game 7 and closed out the game to earn the save and deliver San Francisco another world championship, which is really fantastic. I mean, over the entire series, he had a .43 ERA, which is fabulous. And obviously, with a performance like that, he won the World Series MVP award.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In contrast to the helmet that we saw earlier, this, of course, is a soft cap, but you can actually see the stitches. The SF has been stitched right on there, and it's in beautiful shape. Yes. Yep. It's in absolutely awesome shape. Yeah. Most caps have, I think, yeah, they still do. They're all the logos are stitched on, which is interesting, you know, compared that to the patches, you know, the patches that, so a lot of the equipment will, when they're, you know, the All-Star game and, you know, the postseason, and then obviously the World Series, you know, the patches actually used to be more stitched on. And like this one is, I'm pretty sure it's stitched on, but more recent ones, they're a little more shiny, and they're really not, they're actually glued, which we've seen some mid-game have like partially come off the sleeve or things like that, depending on the wear. Wow. Which is interesting to see that evolution from being stitched on patches, like, or even earlier patches from the World Series, like mid 2000s. They're like sewn patches, like embroidered patches that are then sewn onto the cap or sewn onto sleeve. Whereas this now, you're starting to get into MLB has evolved into this more, plastic substance isn't the right word for it, but I'm not even sure what it's made of. That is not stitching, the bottom line. So interesting. This would have to be like the Mays glove. It's got to be an Autumn Glory. You are correct. All right. You made up you had a couple of weeks
spots in the middle there, but you came through strong in the end there, Bruce.
It was another mediocre performance by me, but we'll put up with it.
Nonsense.
Before we let you go, Gabrielle, we do have a couple of quick questions from the audience. And first one is from Glinda, who has checked in on many of our programs in recent months. Glinda wants to know, how did the Hall of Fame acquire the Kofax Cy Young Award? Do you know the story behind that?
Kofax donated it, actually.
Okay.
Yep.
So he gave it to us.
Yes.
One of his three.
It was I forget exactly what year he gave it to us, but it was probably about 20-ish, 25 years ago he donated it.
Okay, very good.
It's been part of our
then we had another question.
Two others that he had, so we didn't need all of them. He didn't mind giving us one.
Let's see. We have a question here about the Willie Mays glove. Let me just bring that up if I can.
Sure.
Well, it's more of a comment. Let's see. Having a little trouble locating it. If you'll bear with me just a moment. Scott Blake says, I seem to recall that Mays gave his glove to the son of teammate Don Lytle. I don't know if it was donated by Mays or maybe it came from the teammate. Not sure about that.
This glove is actually on loan. It is from the family.
It is?
Family. It's on loan.
So the Mays glove is on loan. Okay, very interesting. And then we had one final question from Martin. Does the Hall have a memento from Bobby Thompson's famous home run, the shot heard round the world, 1951? We
do. We have his bat on exhibit in the timeline. We also have the score sheet from the game. That's not an exhibit, that's in our library collections.
And the timeline is on the second floor. So yep, you can see the Thompson artifact in that part of the museum. Gabrielle, great information, great stories. As always, we thank you for taking the time to be with us. I know the curators have a lot to do and we do appreciate it. We appreciate you and John Odell and Tom Schieber also for joining us over these past several weeks. Thanks a lot.
Of course, not a problem. It's always fun. Always love chatting with you, Bruce.
Oh, thank you. Also, in addition to Gabrielle, we want to express our appreciation to the Ford Motor Company. They are the generous sponsor for these programs throughout 2021. Even though this is the last of our Starting Nine of Artifacts series of programs, we will have some other curator-related programs. In fact, we're going to do one coming up in early April with Eric Stroll, our lead curator, chief curator, one of our vice presidents. He's going to be talking about Hank Aaron. It'll be always special Hank Aaron Day, which we celebrate in early April. We'll have more on that in the coming days. And check out our website if you want to find out about other upcoming programs. Just go to baseballhall.org. So our thanks to Ford Motor Company. Thanks to the curators. Thank you to all of you, our viewers and participants. Have a great day, everybody.